Greetings, in the name of the Most High Jah, Rastafari, and His Son, Jesus Christ, Yeshua, Messiah, Jesus Christos. Okay, this is Yuri Bismanov in 1985 stating that the process of the demoralization of Americans has already been completed threefold. And think about it, totally accurate. He's KGB, supposedly a KGB defector formerly. Now, I don't know about that, but he came out and told the truth to Americans, and evidently nobody listened. But we're going to let him talk for a minute. And demoralization is the key to the turning over of a nation for another purpose, infiltration, right? Now we know that the KGB, CIA, Mossad, MI6, MI5, the Canadian intelligence, all of the different intelligence agencies, the big five eyes or whatever you want to call them, right? And anything interwoven with them all works together. So the CIA has allowed this to happen when they're supposed to defend it from happening. CIA needs to be abolished because they're part and parcel to this whole subversion tactic of demoralization, done intricately and gradually on purpose. And I'm going to go ahead and let him talk, but I got lots of things to say about this.
This they don't understand, and it will be greatest shock for them, of course. The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years. Actually, it's overfulfilled because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. So basically America is stuck with demoralization, and unless, even if you start right now, here, this minute, you start educating new generation of Americans, it will still take you 15 to 20 years to turn the tide of ideological perception of reality back to normalcy and patriotism. The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation, what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6.
So he's saying 1970, basically, it was already off the chain. And when he says the removal of patriotism through this brainwashing, basically, he in several of his interviews, he basically alludes to the fact that what he means by it is it's equal to everything America is supposed to be. People of the Most High, a nation built on the laws of righteousness and truth, freedom and real liberty within the confines of morality, sovereign, and with a gold and silver backed currency. That's why it says in the Constitution all debts are payable only with gold and silver. Nation with integrity, right? And apart from the history jacking, as in the lie about how old America really is, which is really, really old. Cities like San Francisco were built way before they said they were. And that goes back to the Ethiopic Tartaria 1,000-year period that they call the Dark Ages. So, the dragon used intelligence agencies to do this. America had to be taken over, and it has been taken over a long time ago. Everything that we see in politics today, from when you're talking about who you're going to vote for, Trump or Biden or whatever, all that stuff is a show to distract you from the fact that this nation has already been completely demoralized. And what we really need to work on is righteousness in our culture, and depose these criminals who run our country as well as the other nations, because this has been done to the whole world damn near. And which brings me to my next point. If you're on OnlyFans and you claim to be a truther, you are so backwards. You are participating in the demoralization of this nation and other nations if you're in another nation. Yeah, the economy's hard, but you're selling out to the beast system by participating in that hypersexualization, which is part of the demoralization, which is part of the destruction of the nuclear family. And Jah is not going to take that lightly. And how many of the people out there are living this secretive life where they think nobody's ever going to figure it out? Or just doing it blatantly with no shame? If you have an OnlyFans account, I would never date you or marry you unless you repented and have not had one for years and years. And that's probably knocking off 99% of all my date possibility for dates or potential partners for marriage. That's probably knocking off 99.8% of everybody. Not joking. This is demoralization. It's at its fullness. And if you think Jah will not judge it, then you are foolish. That's why it's strange with this eclipse thing. A lot of people are freaking out about the eclipse. But I don't know what to feel. I just feel like I probably need to leave. But it crosses over those Ninevehs. All these different cities called Nineveh, which it's a strange coincidence in and of itself that there's so many cities called Nineveh in a row like that in that path. And then there's a city called Jonah. It's just interesting. So, anyways, this demoralization has engulfed our whole culture and nation. And they have completed it from a long time ago. They started getting in the colleges and raising the youth on false doctrine. Now, this dude will also say things like this, like people who question the Pentagon and rebel against the Pentagon as if the Pentagon was good. Now, and he's trying to equate the rebelling against and criticism of the Pentagon with demoralization, and it's like maybe back in the day there would have been good folks in the Pentagon doing the good works that were righteous and true and honorable, maybe, but even that's a trick because the Pentagon is corrupt as it gets too. I'm not saying everybody who works there is, I'm just saying that, this infiltration is so deep and so widespread that I feel like what he says there is almost a purposeful sly move, like he's trying to mislead you. Like that. The only options is either participate in the demoralization and subversion of our culture or support the government at hand. And it's like, well, they both work together. And the illusion here is that Russia wants to do this to America. And it's like, yeah, Russia might have been used to do some of this to America through intelligence agencies like the KGB, but the state of Israel does it too. Our own government does it too. The CIA does it. See what I'm saying? And so does all the other intelligence agencies. And our government knows that, and they don't do nothing about it. Because they're doing it too, to us, in America. We're like a big guinea pig tester for everything. And America, in its true, upright, righteous place and culture, is unstoppable and a good thing because of the freedom that it is ensured to each man and woman based on the rights that are given to them by the Creator. So the Constitution of America backs up and stands up for the rights that are given to us by Jah. Right? That's why it's a good thing. And yeah, some people try to twist it up and put some other things in it that were kind of shady. But apart from that, the core tenets of it are crucial. So, nowadays, people's constitutional rights are being stepped on every 5 minutes. And they don't do a thing about it. They don't get mad about it. They just say, the government's already does what they want. And it's like, yeah, they keep doing what they want because nobody steps up to the plate and says, you know what, this is bullshit. This is supposed to be my rights here. And you're just walking all over them. Nobody says that. Everybody just signs a plea agreement or something, gets the case dismissed, never brings it up. If they bring it up, the case will be dismissed as long as it's not a moral issue. If you didn't hurt somebody, kill somebody, steal from somebody, then within reason you should be left alone. So nobody stands up for their rights anymore. We have declining nuclear family. Most of the women today think they can get rich real quick on OnlyFans. Maybe it's not most of the women, but it seems like it's a lot. Like it's even a joke going around in our culture. Like it's just everybody and people you wouldn't expect and people you would never, ever, ever think for 1 second would be doing some shit like that or anything related to it. People that are professing to be Christians or believers are stooping to this level. And I'm not just talking about my fake actor wife. I'm talking about some other things that have nothing to do with her. Just in my little time since I figured this out. And they are either, I'm sure there's probably some married couples doing it together, to make money. And that's, I guess, better than cheating and all that and doing it secretly. But at the same time, it's like, that's totally wrong still because that's supposed to be you and her special place. You know what I'm saying? You don't show the world that thing. You know what I mean? Demoralization hitting the family in the heaviest way. I mean, that was the first part of demoralization of this nation. Now we had destabilization. We're well into destabilization. Our money ain't worth a fuck. What do you just say? After demoralization, then it's destabilization. And they focus on, they already fed you a bunch of poisonous foods. They've already dumbed you down. They've already destroyed the family. They've already hypersexualized everybody. They've already demoralized everybody. Removed everybody from the core tenets of righteousness that come from being a Christian nation. They have everybody hating God and thinking God is some punk or something. They got everybody on drugs, addicted to drugs, bad, and we're at destabilization point. I mean, we still got the puppet show of politics happening, so people just think our country's still running itself, but you see what I'm saying? It's been hijacked a long time ago. The New World Order isn't coming. It's already been here. It's called the New World Order for a reason, because it replaced the old World Order. Within 400-year period, it has got to that point. And that's why Haile Selassie said in 1941, has newly risen its head. The dragon has newly risen its head, as in the dragon had been rising, coming up out of the earth, in a sense, you know what I mean, figuratively, through all nations. And its head has risen, 1941. Post-victory against Mussolini's fascist invasion funded by the Vatican. Okay. So, and this KGB agent also, I don't know if he says it in this interview, but we'll play some more of him here in a second. But this dude says if people would just stand up for what they know is right, and for Christ, he even says for Christ, and the tenets that this nation was founded on, about morality and righteousness, not about weed being legal or illegal or any of that kind of crap, but about righteousness and morality, okay? And freedom that we all should be able to enjoy, whether it's drinking a beer, having a joint, driving and traveling without being harassed all the time for our license, which that's a right that they trampled a long time ago, making us have insurance instead of dealing with it in each situation as it is, which causes us to be even more careful. I mean, insurance is a racket. That didn't used to exist in the old world America. You see what I'm saying? And just all these arbitrary codes and statutes. I'm not saying there shouldn't be traffic laws. I'm not saying that people shouldn't drive safely. I'm just saying people all over the country have different reasons, situations, that they don't have a license. And some of the reasons is because they fucked up and drove drunk a bunch or something. But some of it is not like that. And people can't just get in a car and drive when they need to for work, for a job, for an emergency, or for anything they need to travel for, because that's one of our rights. We have the right to travel. Okay? And a vehicle is your private property. So it's not, I don't need permission from Big Daddy government to drive my property. I pay taxes through sales tax, or other citizens pay taxes, right? I'm not a citizen, I'm a sovereign. But I still pay sales tax, which goes to the state, which goes to them roads. You see what I'm saying? I pay tax on everything I buy. So, if it's our money that goes into it, and you're going to harass me when I'm not doing anything illegal as far as unlawful goes, because I'm not drinking it and getting fucking wasted in the car on the way to my job, which you should be allowed to drink, but driving drunk is kind of dumb, so I agree with that law. It's not arbitrary. Having one beer before you go and failing a blow test is dumb, though. Like, that would be ridiculous. Like, I can't have one beer with my meal and just drive. It's not a big deal. That would be arbitrary. But anyways, I'm just saying that we have accepted all of these arbitrary things that used to be our rights, unalienable rights. A license to travel is a lien on your right. You have to pay the state. They have to tag, track, and identify you, which means you're a number, which means you're at sea, which means you're not under the jurisdiction of real law of the land, which is the Constitution, which means you're subject to a system. That's why you're banked, okay? At the bank, because you're at sea. They have to bank you, which is, what are they banking? Your currency, your flow, your electric flow, your charge, your money, your you know what I'm saying? Your value. as far as monetary goes. There is a connection between water and money. Okay, there's a connection between these arbitrary codes and statutes and maritime commercial admiralty law. Okay, the law of the sea, which is why the Vatican has to do with that, and being the church of being on the sea, right? The sea is also, has to do, like a flood of water has to do with, that too. Like in the dragon spewed out a flood of water, which is a flood of lies that incorporate living men and women as commercial products or cattle, so that they can be judged under the jurisdiction of maritime commerce, admiralty codes and statutes, like cannabis is illegal, or fishing without a license, or driving without a license. Am I saying that we shouldn't be good stewards of the earth and have rules about fishing? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if a man's hungry and he needs to go fishing and he doesn't have all the paperwork and he's hungry, he got to be able to eat, and it's from the earth itself and it's not from somebody's private property especially, it should be okay. He shouldn't be harassed and ticketed because he didn't have a license. And even for somebody's private property, within reason, if it was counted as a gleaning law. There used to be gleaning laws. If a farmer has a big old farm and there's poor people that are hungry, they can walk by and pick enough to eat for just one meal or one day, right? And that's lawful. That's the kinds of laws that we used to have in this country. Now we got to be tagged, tracked, and traced for everything, while our country is simultaneously demoralized, so we're automatically treated like criminals and like we're suspicious. And then we have no American constitutional rights anymore, that people have given them up and been tricked into giving them up. See what I'm saying? And then we have all these juxtapositions of morality, like people are in prison still for cannabis. You know what I'm saying? It's a mess. It's called a de facto government. What we want is a de jure. I think it's called de jure government. De jure government. I can't remember exactly how to say it, but it basically means a righteous government. What we have is de facto. And run by eugenicists who have pushed these psychological operations on us, and they belong in prison. This guy on the screen, if he didn't really actually whistleblow, he belongs in prison too, because evidently he's part of it. But let's pick a different video from him and play it. See what this says here.
Courage is a quiet determination to be there for our patients, for our communities, for each other.
Oh, Lord. Sorry for the ads. But yeah, this guy's been out for a while. This is kind of old news, this guy talking about this stuff. But for those who haven't heard it, it's a crucial listen. Old school truther stuff. It's not that old school, it's only from 1985. It's not like it's from the 50s or something. I might have to refresh my connection. It's being a turd. Alright, come on. Yeah, man, I might pick a different video because this one's being terrible. Oh, what did I just do? There we go, finally. Alright, guys, we got it to play, hopefully. I'm getting ready to, here we go.
Thomas Schumann, his real name is Yuri Bezmenov. He gave this lecture back in 1980s. It took me a while to find this golden nugget. And the reason I uploaded this video on my channel is because it is a great lecture that helps us in understanding the current political scenario both around the world as well as in our own country. And I believe it needs to be seen. After watching this, you'll be able to relate what is happening today in many Western societies like America and Europe. And unfortunately, it is also happening in India. Since it's a long video, please watch it whenever you have time. And maybe you will get a bit more educated. The video starts now.
Subversion is the term, if you look in a dictionary or criminal code to that matter, usually is explained as a part.
Subversion is criminal. Okay? That's the way it is. It's not just like some hokey dokey charge. It is unlawful. These people got to go to prison for real, y'all. If you want to live in a free world, you better get with it. Start speaking the truth. Start saying what needs to be said. If you have children, if you have family, if you want to keep that, if you want to keep your rights, you got to start laying down the law for real. Everybody needs to.
Of activity to destroy things like religion, government system, political, economical system of the country. And usually it's linked to espionage and such romantic things as blowing up bridges, sidetracking trains, cloak and dagger activity in Hollywood style. What I'm going to talk about now has absolutely nothing to do with the cliche of espionage or KGB activity of collecting information. So the greatest mistake or misconception, I think, is that whenever we are talking about KGB, for some strange reason, starting from Hollywood movie makers to professors of political science and quote-unquote experts on Soviet affairs, or Kremlinologists as they call themselves, they think that the most desirable thing for Andropov and the whole KGB is to steal blueprints of some supersonic jet, bring it back to Soviet Union and sell it to the Soviet military-industrial complex. It's only partly true. If we take the whole time, money, and manpower that the Soviet Union and KGB in particular spends outside of USSR border, we will discover, of course there are no official statistics unlike with CIA or FBI, that the espionage as such occupies only 10 to 15% of money, time, and manpower. 15% of the activity of KGB. The rest, 85%, is always subversion. And unlike a dictionary of English, Oxford Dictionary, subversion in Soviet terminology means always a destructive, aggressive activity aimed to destroy the country, nation, or geographical area of your enemy. So there's no romantics in there, absolutely. No blowing up bridges, no microfilms in Coca-Cola cans, nothing of that sort. No James Bond nonsense. It's most of this activity is overt, legitimate, and easily observable if you give yourself time and trouble to observe it. But according to the law and law enforcement systems of the Western civilization, it's not a crime Exactly, because of misconception, manipulation of terms. We think that subverter is a person who is going to blow up our beautiful bridges. No, subverter is a student who comes for exchange, a diplomat, an actor, an artist, a journalist like myself was 10 years ago. Now, subversion is an activity which is a two-way traffic. You cannot subvert an enemy which doesn't want to be subverted. If you know history of Japan, for example, before 20th century, Japan was a closed society. The moment a foreign boat comes to the shores of Japan, the Imperial Japanese Army politely tells them to get lost. And if American salesman comes to the shore of Japan, let's say 60 or 70 years from now back, and says, oh, I have a very beautiful vacuum cleaner.
Oh man. See, I told you guys that about Japan. I wasn't just making it up. Oh, come on. Give me a break. Where's the quality in there? Come on. Oh, I'm moving here in a minute, y'all. So I'll move into a place where my signal will be great. So I won't have these problems. Well, might have to call it quits if it don't work. Sorry, I'm eating. Starving to death. Where's the video I picked?
I have a very
There we
beautiful
go.
vacuum cleaner for you.
Oh,
You know, with the good financing.
I'll pause it for a minute.
Please leave us. We don't need your vacuum cleaner. If they don't leave, they shoot them to preserve their culture, ideology, traditions, values intact. You were not able to subvert Japan. You cannot subvert Soviet Union because the borders are closed. The media is censored by the government. The population is controlled by the KGB and internal police. With all the beautiful glossy pictures of Time magazine and Magazine America, which is published by the American embassy in Moscow, you cannot subvert Soviet citizens because the magazine never reaches Soviet citizens. It's collected from the newsstands and thrown to garbage can. Subversion can be only successful when the initiator, the actor, the agent of subversion has a responsive target. It's a two-way traffic. United States is a receptive target of subversion.
Oh man.
Here are 3 reasons why your 6th to 12th grader won't get admitted into an Ivy League school. If your child is
There is no response similar to that one from United States to the Soviet Union. It stops halfway somewhere. It never reaches here. The theory of subversion goes all the way back 2,500 years ago. The first human being who formulated the tactics of subversion was a Chinese philosopher by the name of Sun Tzu. 2,500 years BC. He was an advisor for several imperial courts in ancient China. And he said, after long meditation, that to implement state policy in a warlike manner, it's the most counterproductive, barbaric, and inefficient to fight on a battlefield. You know that war is continuation of state policy, right? So if you want successfully to implement your state policy and you start fighting, this is the most idiotic way to do it. The highest art of warfare is not to fight at all, but to subvert anything of value in the country of your enemy, until such time that the perception of reality of your enemy is screwed up to such an extent that he does not perceive you as an enemy, and that your system, your civilization, and your ambitions look to your enemy as an alternative, if not desirable, then at least feasible. Better than dead. That's the ultimate purpose, the final stage of subversion, after which you can simply take your enemy without a single shot being fired, if the subversion is successful. This is basically what subversion is. As you see, not a single mentioning of blowing up bridges. Of course, Sun Tzu didn't know about blowing up bridges. Maybe there were not that many bridges at that time. But the basics of subversion is being taught to every student of KGB school in USSR and to officers of military academies. I'm not sure if the same author is included in the list of reading for American officers, to say nothing about ordinary students of political science. I have difficulty to find the translation of Sun Tzu in the library of a university in Toronto and later on here in Los Angeles. But it's a book which is not available. It is forced to every student in USSR. Every student who is taught to be dealing further in his future career with foreigners. What subversion is? Basically, it consists of 4 periods, time-wise. If we start from here and go this way, time, right? This is the beginning point. The first stage of subversion is the process which is called, basically, demoralization. It says for itself what it is. It takes from, say, 15 to 20 years to demoralize a society. Why 15 or 20 years? This is the time sufficient to educate one generation of students or children. One generation, one lifetime span of a person, a human being, which is dedicated to study, to shaping up the outlook, ideology, personality. No more, no less. Usually it takes from 15 to 20 years. What it includes? It includes influencing, or by various methods, infiltration, propaganda methods, direct contacts, doesn't really matter. I will describe them later. Of various areas where public opinion is formulated or shaped. Religion, educational system, social life, administration, law enforcement system, military, of course, and labor and employer relations, economy. Okay, 5 areas. I will not write them down because we will not have enough space. Sometimes when I describe all the methods, students ask me question, are you sure this is the result of the Soviet influence? Not necessarily. You see, the tactical subversion about which I'm talking is similar to the martial art, the Japanese martial art. If some of you are familiar with that tactic, probably you will remember that if an enemy is bigger, heavier than yourself, it will be very painful to resist his direct strike. If a heavier person wants to strike me in the face, it would be very naive and counterproductive to stop his blow. The Chinese and Japanese judo art tells us what to do. First to avoid the strike, then to grab the fist and continue his movement in the direction where it was before, right? Until the enemy crashes in the wall. You see? So,
Sorry, guys. Watch out for ducks and cats. I have somebody coming over to sell me a backpack, hopefully. That's good because I'm getting ready to go somewhere, finally.
what happens here? The target country obviously does something wrong. If it's a free democratic society, there are many different movements within the society. There obviously, in every society, there are people who are against this society. They may be simple criminals, ideologically in disagreement with the state policy, conscientious enemies, simply psychotic personalities who are against anything, right? And finally, there are a small group of agents of a foreign nation, bought, subverted, recruited, right? The moment all these movements will be directed in one direction, right? This is the time to catch that movement and to continue it until the movement forces the whole society into collapse, into crisis, right? So that's exactly the martial art tactic. We don't stop an enemy. We let him go. We help him to go in the direction we want them to go. Okay? So, on the stage of demoralization, obviously there are tendencies in each society, in each country, which are going to opposite direction from the basic moral values and principles. To take advantage of these movements, to capitalize on them, is the main purpose of the originator of subversion. So we have religion, we have education, we have social life,
worked for me. Hey, that's me when I was younger and blonder.
Good Lord.
we have power structure, we have labor relations, unions, and finally we have law and order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? These are the areas of application of subversion. What it means exactly? In case of religion, destroy it, ridicule it, replace it with various sects, cults, which bring people's attention, faith, whether it is naive, primitive, doesn't really matter. As long as the basically accepted religious dogma is being slowly eroded and taken away from the supreme purpose of religion, to keep people in touch with the supreme being, that serves the purpose. Therefore, replace it, accepted, respected, religious organizations with fake organizations. Distract people's attention from the real faith and attract them to various different faiths. Education. Distract them from learning something which is constructive, pragmatic, efficient. Instead of mathematics, physics, foreign languages, chemistry, teach them history of urban warfare, natural food, home economy, your sexuality, anything, as long as it takes you away. Okay? Social life. Replace traditionally established institutions and organizations with fake organizations. Take away the initiative from people. Take away the responsibility from naturally established links between individuals, group of individuals, and society at large, and replace them with artificially, bureaucratically controlled bodies. Instead of social life and friendship between neighbors, establish social workers institutions. The people who are on payroll of whom? Society? No, bureaucracy. The main concern of social workers is not your family, not you, not social relations between groups of people. The main concern is to get the paycheck from the government. What will be the result of their social work doesn't really matter. They can develop all kind of concepts to show to the government and to the people that they're useful. Okay, away from the natural links, power structure. Okay, the natural bodies of administration, which are traditionally either elected by people at large or appointed by elected leaders of society, are being actively substituted by artificial bodies. The bodies of people, groups of people, whom nobody elected. Never. As a matter of fact, most of the people don't like them at all, and yet they exist. One of such group is media. Who elected them? How come they have so much power? Almost monopolistic power on your mind. They can rape your mind. But who elected them? How come they have a nerve to decide what is good and what is bad for the elected by you, president, and his administration? Who the hell are they? Spiro Agnew, who was hated by the liberal left, called them a bunch of enfeebled snobs. And that's exactly what they are. They think they know. They don't. The level of mediocrity. In a big establishment like New York Times, Los Angeles Times, major television network, you don't have to be excellent journalist. You have to be exactly a mediocre journalist. That's easier to survive. There's no competition anymore. You have your good
Evidently, there's another ad. That's annoying.
nice income, $100,000 a year. That's it. Whether you're better or worse, it doesn't really matter anymore. As soon as you're smiling to the camera and your job. That's it. No more competition. Power structure slowly is eroding. By the bodies and groups of people. Who do not have neither qualification nor the will of people to keep them in power, and yet they do have power.
Oh my goodness.
that, there's another process. Law enforcement, law and order organization and structure is being eroded. For the last 20, 25 years, if you see old movies and new movies, you can see that in new movies, a policeman, an officer of the United States Army looks dumb, angry, psychotic, paranoid. A criminal looks nice, kind of, well, he smokes hash and shoots the whatever drug, but basically he's a nice human being. He's creative. And he's unproductive only because society oppresses him. Whereby a general of Pentagon is always, by definition, a dumb, a war maniac. A policeman is a big, rude policeman. He abuses his power. You know? A generality, generalization like that. The hatred, the mistrust to the people who are supposed to protect you.
Right, so basically partiality. Just because you're a cop, you're a bad person. That's just not true. There's good cops out there. I've met them myself, shook their hand. They respected my sovereignty and respected the constitutional rights that we're supposed to have. So, yeah, look at what they're done. They got people all pro-cop, all cops, pro-cops, all cops. And then you got the other side. All cops are evil, and all cops got to go and defund the police. See what I'm saying? The other side is militarize the police and support the police no matter what, partially, without exposing any of their wrongdoings. There's no balance. There's no truth. And people are not accountable for their own sins anymore. It's just a mess. Each cop that does something wicked needs to be taken care of, as far as fired and not given a paid vacation. If they're violating our rights, they need to be fired. Period. But not all cops are doing that. Not all cops are bad. They want us to pick one side or the other. There's a partiality, building the partial treatment of each other in this culture.
And enforce law and order. Moral relativity. The Angelo Buono process lasted 2 years in Los Angeles. Relativity. The Angelo Buono process lasted 2 years in Los Angeles. And yet there are still some lawyers who say, look, he's a nice character, as a matter of fact. There was some witness who said, also a criminal, who said, well, he's a nice guy. I asked him one day to burn a house of my enemy, and he wouldn't do it. He's a nice fellow. A slow substitution of basic moral principles, whereby a criminal is not a criminal, actually. He's a defendant. Even if his guilt is proven, there is still a doubt to kill or not to kill, to be or not to be. Thou shalt not kill, yes. But this line may not necessarily be applicable to a murderer. Thou shalt not murder. That should be the presumption, not that thou shalt not kill. Okay, labor relations. At this stage, within 15 to 20 years, we destroy the traditionally established links of bargaining between employer and employee. The classical Marxist-Leninist theory of natural exchange of goods. Person A has 5 sacks of grain and person B has 5 pairs of shoes. And the natural exchange without money is when they bargain between each other. And only with the introduction of the third force, C, an entirely third foreign stranger who says, no, don't give him 5 sacks of grain, give it to me, and you give me your 5 pairs of shoes, and I will distribute it accordingly, so the economy will go. This is the death of natural exchange and death of natural bargaining. Well, trade unions were established 100 years ago. The objective was to improve working conditions and to protect the rights of workers from those employers who were abusing their right because they had more money. Objectively, at that time, initially, the trade union movement did work. What we see now is that the bargaining process is no longer resulting in the compromise, which is leading objectively to betterment of working conditions and increase of salary. What we see is that after each prolonged strike, the workers lose. Even if they have 10% increase of their salaries, they cannot catch up due to inflation and due to missed time. More than that, millions of people suffer from that strike because the economy now is interdependent. It's intertwined like one body.
So, yeah, and then it's got the little zippy thing in front. When I have to do those tree houses and stuff at work, I use these because it makes it easier for my desks and stuff. I pack all that stuff up there.
Oh, you do the cleaning and stuff?
But yeah.
If you've spent most of your adulthood being stuck because of your childhood, then there's something that you need to know about your brain.
Do you find it difficult, if not impossible,
Oh, they give them to you for work too?
No, I bought them off Amazon. I didn't pay but like $15 for it.
Okay.
So,
I'll pay you $15 for it.
well, just throw an extra bud or something in there, dude, and does that
Okay,
work
we'll do
out?
that. Yeah, we can do
Okay.
that.
tasks? And do you find you
appreciate
keep
you,
experiencing the same painful issues in
willing to
relationships?
meet me and all
Are
that
you
stuff. I
unable to
just
stick
hated
to
that
healthy
stuff and all
habits no
that
matter
way.
how hard you try? Like
And she wasn't gonna, you know what I mean?